A racist teacher laughs at a young black student, telling him he'll never graduate from high school. But that teacher, a man who saw himself as a king in a tiny, chalk-dusted kingdom, just made the biggest mistake of his long, bitter career. He didn't just underestimate a boy. He created the very men who would return to burn his kingdom to the ground. This is the story of how one man's towering arrogance led to his complete and total destruction. 10 years earlier. The air in room 214 is thick with the smell of old paper, floor polish, and the unchallenged ego of Mr. Arthur Garrison. He stands at the front of his 11th grade history class, a man carved from granite and prejudice. His suit is a size too small, a brown tweed that seems to hold the dust of every decade since he started teaching. His hair is a greasy comb-over, a desperate attempt to conceal a truth his scalp surrendered years ago. But it is his eyes that command the room. They are small, hard chips of slate, scanning the rows of students not for potential, but for weakness. Mr. Garrison does not teach history. He wields it like a club. He believes in a certain version of the past, one where great men, who all looked remarkably like him, shaped the world through sheer force of will. Everyone else was just scenery. In the back row, trying to make himself as small as possible, sits David Sterling. He is 16. He is thin, with hands that seem too large for his wrists and a mind that is far too large for this room. David loves history. He loves the tangled narratives, the forgotten voices, the idea that the world he lives in was built brick by the decisions of those who came before. He spends his nights in the library, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He reads beyond the assigned textbook, finding stories of black soldiers in the Civil War, of female mathematicians who powered the space race, of the complex trade empires of West Africa. He sees a history that is vibrant, complicated, and alive. Mr. Garrison sees a history that is settled, simple, and white. This is the source of their silent war. Sterling. Garrison's voice cracks through the silence of the classroom like a whip. Every student flinches, even those whose names were not called. A summons from Garrison is never good. David looks up, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. Yes, Mr. Garrison. The teacher holds up a stapled sheaf of papers between his thumb and forefinger, as if it were a piece of garbage he was reluctant to touch. It is David's midterm paper. His paper on the economic motivations behind the Northern states' stance on abolition. He was proud of it. He had used sources from the university library, cited academic journals. He had worked on it for 3 weeks. This, Garrison announces to the entire class, his voice dripping with theatrical disdain, is a work of fiction. A few students snicker. David feels the heat rise in his cheeks. Sir, I don't understand. I cited all my sources. Garrison scoffs, a wet, ugly sound. Sources. You wouldn't know a real source if it bit you. This is far too articulate for you. The implication hangs in the air, heavy and poisonous. For you. I assume you copied it from somewhere, Garrison continues, walking slowly down the aisle toward David's desk. Each footstep is a hammer blow. I didn't. I wrote every word myself, David says, his voice quiet but firm. Garrison leans over David's desk, his face uncomfortably close. David can smell the stale coffee on his breath. Let me be clear, son, Garrison whispers, the word son an insult. I know your type. You think you can slide by, take shortcuts. You think the rules don't apply to you. He straightens up, addressing the class again. This paper gets a 0. For plagiarism. Gasps ripple through the room. A 0 for plagiarism is an academic death sentence. You can't do that, David protests, standing up. You don't have any proof. Garrison's face twists into a smug smile. It is the smile of a man who has just cornered his prey. Proof? Boy, I am the proof. I've been teaching here for 30 years. I know what a student like you is capable of, and this, he shakes the paper, ain't it? The grammatical error is deliberate. A final, petty twist of the knife. He drops the paper onto David's desk. A large red F is scrawled across the top, the ink bleeding through the first page. Beneath it, in the same angry red pen, don't insult my intelligence. David stares at it, his vision blurring. All that work. All those hours. destroyed by a man who hadn't even bothered to read it. Garrison turns to walk back to the front of the room, his victory assured. But David isn't finished. "It's not fair," he says, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and rage. Garrison stops. He turns around slowly, a look of genuine surprise on his face. No one talks back to him. "What did you say?" "I said it's not fair," David repeats, louder this time. "You just don't like that I challenged the narrative in your textbook." The class is utterly silent. You could hear a pin drop. Garrison's face hardens, the manufactured smile gone, replaced by something cold and dangerous. He walks back to David's desk, his movements stiff with fury. "You want to talk about what's fair, Sterling," he hisses. He leans in again, his voice dropping to a low growl for the whole class to hear. "It's not fair that you're taking up a seat in this classroom. A seat that a more deserving student could have. A student who actually has a future." He gestures around the room, at the faded posters of presidents and generals. "This is a place for achievers. For people who are going somewhere. You are going nowhere." He taps a thick finger on David's chest. "Let me tell you a little secret. A prediction. People like you, Sterling. You don't graduate. You don't finish. The world has other plans for you, and they don't involve a cap and gown." He smiles, a cruel, final slash of a smile. "You will never graduate from this school. I will personally make sure of it." The bell rings, a shrill, jarring sound that breaks the spell. Students scramble to pack their bags, desperate to escape the toxic atmosphere. David remains frozen, the teacher's words echoing in his ears. Never graduate. Garrison picks up the paper from the desk, tears it in half, and drops the pieces into the trash can on his way out the door. He doesn't look back. David stands alone in the empty classroom, the laughter of other students echoing from the hallway. He feels a profound sense of injustice, a cold, hard knot forming in his stomach. It is not despair. It is fuel. He looks at the pieces of his paper in the trash can. He looks at the empty chair where a tyrant Saturday. And in the silent, suffocating air of room 214, a 16-year-old boy makes a silent, unbreakable vow. One day, he would be back. And he would not be the one who was powerless. The guidance counselor's office is meant to be a sanctuary. The walls are painted a calming shade of beige. There are posters of smiling graduates and soaring eagles with words like success and potential printed beneath them. It all feels like a lie. Mrs. Albright listens patiently. She is a kind woman, with tired eyes that have seen too many students chewed up by the system she is supposed to help them navigate. She nods as David explains what happened, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. He shows her his research notes, the list of sources, the first draft he wrote by hand. He is meticulous. He is telling the truth. She knows he is telling the truth. When he finishes, she sighs, a deep, weary sound that seems to come from the very soul of the building. "David, I believe you," she says, and for a fleeting moment, he feels a spark of hope. Then she crushes it. "But my hands are tied." It is the official motto of the well-meaning but powerless. "Mr. Garrison has tenure," she explains, as if that word grants him diplomatic immunity from basic decency. "He's been here for 30 years. The principal. He won't cross him. Nobody will." "So that's it?" David asks, disbelief coloring his voice. "He can just fail me because he doesn't like me. He can just lie." Mrs. Albright looks down at her hands, unable to meet his gaze. "The best I can do is get you into a summer school history class so you can make up the credit. It's not fair, I know. But it's the only way to make sure you stay on track to graduate." The irony is a bitter pill. The only way to defy Garrison's prophecy is to accept his unjust punishment. "The system protects its own, David," she says softly. "And you, right now. You're on the outside." He leaves her office with a summer school enrollment form and a heavier heart. Garrison, of course, doubles down. He sees David in the hallway the next day and gives him a triumphant smirk. "Heard you're enjoying your summer vacation in advance," he says, loud enough for others to hear. "See? I told you. This is the beginning of the end for your little academic career." The words are a constant, dripping poison. But the true breaking point, the moment that turns the cold knot of injustice in David's stomach into tempered steel, comes a week later. Parent-teacher conferences. David's mother, a nurse who works double shifts to keep their small apartment, has taken a precious afternoon off to be here. She sits on a too-small chair in Garrison's classroom, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She is a woman of immense dignity and quiet strength. Garrison does not see this. He sees a target. He doesn't even wait for her to ask a question. "Let's not waste each other's time, Mrs. Sterling," he begins, leaning back in his chair with an air of profound boredom. "Your son is a problem. He's lazy, he's insubordinate, and frankly, he lacks the intellectual horsepower to be in an advanced placement track." David's mother listens, her expression unreadable. "David is a very hard worker," she says, her voice even. "He studies every night." Garrison lets out a short, barking laugh. "Studying? That's what he tells you. He's probably out with his friends, getting into trouble. You need to face facts. The boy is a lost cause." He leans forward, his tone shifting from dismissive to conspiratorial, as if he is doing her a favor. "My advice to you is to save your money. Don't worry about college funds. It's not going to happen. You should encourage him to look into a trade. Something with his hands. That's a more realistic path for him." David, standing just outside the classroom door as instructed, feels his blood run cold. His mother's response is ice. "My son will go to college, Mr. Garrison. And he will be whatever he chooses to be. You will not stand in his way." She stands up, her small frame radiating a power that Garrison, in his arrogance, completely misreads. This enrages him. He is not used to being challenged, especially not by someone he has already categorized and dismissed. "You people are all the same," he sneers, his mask of professionalism falling away completely. "Always so defiant. Always thinking you're entitled to something you haven't earned. Your son hasn't earned the right to be in this school, and he sure as hell hasn't earned the right to go to college." He stands up, puffing out his chest. "Let me tell you where your son is headed. He's headed for a jail cell or a ditch. He will never, ever graduate from this school. And you are wasting your time and his." That is the moment. The line is not just crossed, it is obliterated. He has not only attacked David's future, but he has insulted his mother. He has belittled her sacrifice, her love, her dignity. David steps into the doorway. His face is a blank canvas, but his eyes are burning. His mother turns, sees him, and her own composure cracks for a second. She reaches for his hand. In her purse, a small, cheap microcassette recorder, which she'd been using to record lectures for a nursing certification class, has been silently running the entire time. She had forgotten to turn it off. A happy accident. Or perhaps, a small intervention from the universe. Garrison sees David and his sneer deepens. Ah, the delinquent himself. Come to hear the truth. David says nothing. He simply looks at the men. He commits every detail to memory, the smug curl of his lip, the dull gleam of his slate-gray eyes, the sound of his voice dripping with condescension. He is not looking at a teacher. He is looking at a mountain. A mountain of ignorance and hate that stands in his way. And he knows, with a certainty that fills every cell in his body, that he will not go around it. He will learn how to move it. He and his mother walk out of the classroom, leaving Garrison alone in his dusty, toxic kingdom. They do not say a word all the way home. That night, David applies for a transfer to a different high school in the next county. He will have to wake up at 5 every morning to take 2 buses to get there. He will graduate from that school, with honors. He will go to college. He will get his master's degree. He will get his doctorate in education administration. He will become a rising star, known for turning around failing schools with a combination of sharp data analysis and deep empathy. He will wait. He will watch. And 10 years later, when the position of superintendent for his old school district opens up, he will apply. He will be the youngest, most qualified candidate they have ever seen. And he will get the job. The mountain has no idea it is about to be moved. Present day. The Northwood High School auditorium is a sea of tired faces and cheap coffee. It is the first faculty meeting of the new school year. The mood is sour. The district has a new superintendent, an outsider, and the rumor mill has been churning for weeks. He's some kind of data-obsessed wunderkind. He's here to shake things up. He's here to close schools. He's here to fire people. At the center of a small clique of veteran teachers, holding court as always, is Arthur Garrison. He is 10 years older, but somehow, exactly the same. The suit is a different shade of brown, but just as ill-fitting. The hair is thinner, the bitterness more deeply etched into his face. He is a monument to stagnation. This new guy, Sterling, or whatever his name is, Garrison says loudly, ensuring his audience can hear. He's probably some kid with a fancy degree who's never spent a day in a real classroom. He'll come in with his spreadsheets and his theories, and we'll be the ones left to clean up the mess. He takes a dramatic sip of his coffee. Tenure is the only thing protecting us from these flavor-of-the-month administrators, he proclaims. They can't touch us. We are the bedrock of this institution. The principal, a perpetually flustered man named Mr. Fields, taps nervously on the microphone at the podium. Fields has been principal for 15 years, and his primary skill is avoiding conflict, which has allowed cancers like Arthur Garrison to fester for decades. All right, everyone, if I could have your attention, he begins, his voice thin and reedy. As you know, we're welcoming our new superintendent of schools today. He's here to share his vision for the district. He should be here any moment. Garrison leans over to a colleague. Probably stuck in traffic trying to find the place, he mutters, a racist joke hanging unspoken in the air. Probably not from around here. The words barely leave his lips when the heavy double doors at the back of the auditorium swing open with a loud thud. They do not creak. They boom. Every head turns. A man stands silhouetted in the doorway. He is tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored dark gray suit. He moves with a quiet confidence that is the antithesis of Garrison's bluster. He walks down the central aisle, his polished shoes making no sound on the worn linoleum. A hush falls over the auditorium. This is not what they were expecting. This is not some bureaucrat. This is a presence. Mr. Fields on the stage looks like a deer caught in the headlights of a freight train. Ah. There he is, he stammers, his voice cracking. Everyone. A warm Northwood welcome for our new superintendent. The man reaches the front of the auditorium and steps onto the stage. He moves to the podium, his expression calm, professional, unreadable. Fields fumbles with his notes. This is Mr. David Sterling. The name hangs in the air. Sterling. In his seat, Arthur Garrison freezes. His coffee cup stops halfway to his mouth. He squints, his small eyes narrowing. The name is familiar, a faint echo from a distant, unimportant past. He looks at the young, powerful black man on the stage. And then he sees it. Beneath the expensive suit, the confident posture, the air of absolute authority. He sees the face of the quiet, defiant boy from his 11th grade history class. The boy he had crushed. The boy he had failed. The boy he had told would never, ever graduate. The blood drains from Arthur Garrison's face. The smug grin he has worn for 30 years dissolves, replaced by a slack-jawed mask of pure, unadulterated horror. The room is silent. The other teachers are watching the new superintendent, but a few have noticed Garrison's shocking transformation. They see a man who looks as if he has just seen a ghost. David Sterling's eyes scan the crowd. They move past faces, row by row, with cool indifference. Then, they land on Arthur Garrison. For a fraction of a second, their eyes lock. There is no flicker of recognition in David's gaze. No anger. No triumph. Nothing. It is the look one gives a piece of furniture. An old, dusty, irrelevant piece of furniture that is about to be removed. And in that cold, empty gaze, Arthur Garrison understands that his world has just ended. The power in the room has not just shifted. It has undergone a tectonic reversal. The king is dead. And the boy he cast out has returned to sit on the throne. David Sterling taps the microphone once, a crisp, clear sound that cuts through the thick silence. "Good morning," he says. His voice is not loud, but it fills the entire auditorium. It is a voice accustomed to being heard. "My name is David Sterling, and it is an honor to be back at Northwood High." He lets that line sit for a moment. Back. A few teachers exchange confused glances. Garrison feels a cold sweat break out on his forehead. I am here today not to talk about the past, but to lay out a vision for the future, David continues, his tone even and professional. A future built on 3 core principles: accountability, transparency, and justice. He clicks a remote, and a slide appears on the large screen behind him. The words are stark. Black letters on a white background. Accountability. Transparency. Justice. We are introducing a new district-wide policy, effective immediately, he says. It's called the Educational Integrity Initiative. You'll be hearing a lot about it. He is not reading from notes. His gaze sweeps across the teachers, making eye contact with each of them. Except for Garrison. He is deliberately ignoring him. This initiative includes a comprehensive review of all tenured staff. A nervous murmur ripples through the crowd. Garrison's heart hammers against his ribs. Tenure, as you know, is meant to protect academic freedom, David says, his voice hardening slightly. It is not, and will no longer be, a shield for incompetence, indifference, or abuse. He clicks the remote again. A new slide appears, showing a complex chart. We will be implementing new performance metrics. These will include not only student test scores, but also graduation rates tracked by individual instructor, disciplinary referrals per classroom, and student exit interviews. He pauses. And we will be applying these metrics retroactively, using the district's digital archives from the past 15 years. The air in the room becomes thin, hard to breathe. This isn't a vision speech. This is an indictment. Furthermore, David says, his voice dropping slightly, my office has established a new department. The Office of Internal Review. It will be tasked with investigating all formal and informal complaints made by students and parents. Especially those complaints that were previously ignored or dismissed. Garrison feels a wave of nausea. How many complaints? How many angry parents had he brushed off over the years? How many students had he belittled into silence? He can't remember. They were gnats. Insignificant. But now, he realizes, they were not forgotten. They were data points. David gestures to the side of the stage. To help us understand the importance of this, I've invited a special guest today. A woman who dedicated 40 years of her life to the students of this district. Please welcome former head of guidance, Mrs. Eleanor Albright. A side door opens and Mrs. Albright walks onto the stage. She is older, her hair is white, but her eyes are as clear and kind as David remembered. She shakes David's hand and turns to the audience. Garrison shrinks in his seat. He feels like every eye in the room is on him. Mrs. Albright, David says, his voice now gentle. In your long career, did you ever encounter students who felt pushed out? Students who were bright and capable, but were discouraged by a particular faculty member? Mrs. Albright nods slowly. Many times, she says, her voice soft but clear. Too many times. I remember one boy in particular. He was brilliant. A gifted writer, a deep thinker. But he had a teacher who decided, for reasons of his own, that this boy didn't belong. She doesn't name Garrison. She doesn't have to. Every veteran teacher in the room knows exactly who she is talking about. Garrison's style was an open secret. This teacher accused him of plagiarism without proof, she continues, her voice gaining strength. He failed him. He humiliated him in front of his peers. He told this boy, and his mother, that he was a lost cause. He told him he would never graduate. The story hangs in the air, a ghost summoned into the room. What happened to that boy? David asks, his face a mask of professional curiosity. He transferred, Mrs. Albright says, a small, proud smile touching her lips. He worked twice as hard as anyone else. He graduated with honors. He went on to do remarkable things. She looks out at the audience, her gaze sweeping over the teachers. That is why we need this initiative. Because for every student like him who had the strength to overcome, I have to wonder. How many didn't? How much potential did we allow to be extinguished in these hallways because one person with too much power decided who was worthy and who was not? She finishes, and the room is deathly quiet. David clicks the remote. The screen behind him now shows a series of bar graphs. They are anonymized. Teacher A, Teacher B, Teacher C. The graphs show staggering disparities. One teacher's minority students have a graduation rate 30% lower than their white counterparts. One teacher is responsible for 40% of all disciplinary referrals in the entire English department. One teacher has a documented history of formal complaints stretching back to 2008, all of them marked resolved, with no action taken. The data is cold, clinical, and utterly damning. All the arrows, all the red flags, all the statistical anomalies point to one person. Teacher B. Arthur Garrison can't take it anymore. His carefully constructed world of impunity is crumbling around him, brick by brick. He lurches to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is a disgrace, he bellows, his voice hoarse with panic and rage. A witch hunt. All heads whip around to stare at him. Mr. Fields, on the stage, looks like he is about to faint. This is anonymous data. It means nothing. Garrison shouts, his finger jabbing at the screen. Who is this even about? You can't just come in here and threaten us. I have tenure. Do you hear me? Tenure. He is unraveling. The petty tyrant, stripped of his power, is revealing the scared, pathetic men underneath. He is incriminating himself with every word. David Sterling watches him, his expression unchanged. He lets the tantrum play out, lets the entire faculty see the rot that has been hiding in plain sight for 30 years. He waits for Garrison to run out of breath, his chest heaving, his face a blotchy, furious red. Then, David takes a slow step forward. He looks directly at Arthur Garrison for the first time. And he speaks. His voice is quiet, almost a whisper, but it carries the weight of a decade of resolve. It's about me, Mr. Garrison. The confession lands like a physical blow. Garrison staggers back as if he's been shot. And you're wrong about the data, David says, raising the remote. It's not all anonymous. He clicks it one last time. The graphs on the screen vanish. They are replaced by a single, grainy, audio waveform. And then, a voice fills the auditorium. A voice that is 10 years younger, but unmistakably Arthur Garrison's. Let's not waste each other's time, Mrs. Sterling. The secret recording begins to play. Every word. Every sneer. Every soul-crushing insult. The boy is a lost cause. Encourage him to look into a trade. Something with his hands. You people are all the same. Always so defiant. The faculty sits in stunned, horrified silence. They are hearing the unvarnished poison that has flowed through their hallways for years. Garrison stares at the screen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. No sound comes out. He is trapped. Annihilated by his own words, resurrected from the past to destroy his present. The recording reaches its terrible climax. He's headed for a jail cell or a ditch. He will never, ever graduate from this school. The audio clicks off. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. David Sterling lowers the remote. He gestures toward the back of the auditorium, where 2 uniformed security guards and a woman in a sharp business suit have quietly entered. They begin walking down the aisle toward Garrison. Arthur Garrison, David says, his voice now hard as diamond. As superintendent of this district, I am placing you on immediate, unpaid administrative leave pending an emergency termination hearing with the board. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Your tenure is hereby challenged on the grounds of gross professional misconduct, verbal abuse of a minor, and multiple violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The woman in the suit, the district's legal counsel, arrives at Garrison's row. Please hand over your school identification and all district keys, David commands from the stage. You will be escorted from the property immediately. You are not to contact any student or staff member. Is that understood? Garrison collapses into his chair. The bluster is gone. The rage is gone. All that's left is a hollowed-out shell of a man. He starts to babble, his voice a pathetic whimper. No, please. It was a long time ago. I didn't mean it. I was just trying to motivate him. The lies are weak, transparent, and utterly useless. The security guards gently but firmly pull him to his feet. His colleagues, the same ones who laughed at his jokes just 10 minutes earlier, now refuse to look at him. They shrink away as he is led past them. As they reach the end of the aisle, Garrison seems to find one last spark of his old arrogance. He twists his head, his eyes wild with desperation, and screams at the men on the stage. You're just a kid. You can't do this to me. I gave 30 years to this school. 30 years. David Sterling walks to the edge of the stage, looking down at the broken man. His face is impassive, but his eyes hold the cold, satisfying light of long-awaited justice. You were right about one thing, Mr. Garrison, he says, his voice cutting through the man's pathetic cries. I didn't just graduate. He lets the words hang in the air, a final, perfectly placed nail in the coffin of Garrison's career. I came back to make sure no one like you ever gets to decide who does. The security guards pull a sputtering, weeping Arthur Garrison out of the auditorium doors. The doors swing shut, and he is gone. David Sterling stands on the stage, looking out at the shocked faces of the faculty. The room is his. The school is his. The future is his. Now, he says, turning back to the podium as if nothing happened. Let's talk about our new reading program for third graders. The purge was just the beginning. The real work was about to start. The fallout is not swift. It is a slow, meticulous, and deeply satisfying demolition. David Sterling does not believe in quick revenge. He believes in consequences. Arthur Garrison's emergency termination hearing is a formality. The audio recording is played for the school board. His 30 years of service are erased by 3 minutes of his own unfiltered hate. He is fired, unanimously. His teaching license is permanently revoked by the state credentialing board, ensuring he will never set foot in a classroom again. But David does not stop there. The district, under his direction, launches a full-scale investigation into Garrison's entire career. The new Office of Internal Review puts out a call to former students. The floodgates open. Decades of buried stories come to light. Stories of racist remarks, sexist jokes, cruel grades given for personal slights, brilliant students told they were worthless. A pattern of abuse, enabled by a culture of fear and indifference, is laid bare for the entire community to see. The district files a civil lawsuit against Arthur Garrison, seeking to claw back a portion of his salary for the years he was demonstrably not fulfilling his duties. They sue to strip him of his pension, arguing it was accrued under fraudulent pretenses. Garrison, now a pariah, hires a lawyer and tries to countersue for wrongful termination. The local news gets hold of the audio recording. It goes viral. His name becomes synonymous with educational malpractice. His lawyer drops him. He is forced to sell his house to cover his legal fees. He loses everything. The last anyone hears, he is working as a night shift stalker at a discount grocery store, a bitter, broken man haunting the aisles, forever unrecognized. He is erased. The consequences ripple outward. Principal Fields, who presided over Garrison's reign of terror through willful incompetence, is given a choice: forced retirement or termination for cause. He takes the retirement, disappearing from the district in disgrace. 3 other veteran teachers, identified through the investigation as Garrison's enablers, find their positions restructured out of existence at the end of the school year. The message is clear. The old guard is finished. The age of impunity is over. But for every villain who falls, a hero is raised up. The district wins a significant settlement in its lawsuit against Garrison. David announces that every penny of that money, along with a matching grant he secured from a philanthropic foundation, will be used to create a new program. It is called the Sterling Scholars Program. It provides full-ride college scholarships, mentoring, and support for underprivileged, high-achieving students from Northwood High. Its mission is to find the students who might otherwise be overlooked or pushed out, and to give them the resources they need to fly. He holds a press conference in the newly renovated school library to announce its creation. Standing beside him, her eyes shining with pride, is his mother. He also announces the program's first executive director. A woman with 40 years of experience in seeing the potential that others miss. Mrs. Eleanor Albright. She accepts the position, coming out of retirement to continue her life's work, but this time with the power and resources to make a real difference. The system is not just cleansed, it is rebuilt. David implements new, rigorous hiring practices. He brings in a new generation of young, passionate, diverse educators. He overhauls the curriculum, ensuring it reflects the true, complex history of the world, not the sanitized version from Garrison's old textbook. He establishes mentorship programs, student advocacy committees, and a truly anonymous reporting system for grievances. He is not just tearing down the old house. He is building a new one on a stronger foundation. Graduation rates across the district, especially for minority students, begin to climb. Test scores follow. The story of what happened in that auditorium becomes a legend within the district. It is a warning. It is a promise. It is the founding myth of a new era. An era of accountability. An era of justice. 2 years later. The sun is bright over the Northwood High football field, which is covered in rows of white chairs. It is graduation day. The atmosphere is not one of relief, but of joyous celebration. The air buzzes with energy, with hope. The school feels different. It feels alive. On the stage, sitting with the new principal and the school board, is Superintendent David Sterling. He wears the traditional academic robes, but he wears them with an easy grace. He watches as the graduates file in, a vibrant, diverse river of students in blue and gold gowns. He smiles. This is what he fought for. The principal steps to the podium to introduce the class valedictorian. This young woman is not only our top student, the principal says, her voice filled with genuine warmth. She is also a member of the inaugural class of the Sterling Scholars Program. A ripple of applause goes through the crowd. A young Latina woman with bright, intelligent eyes walks to the podium. She adjusts the microphone and looks out at her classmates. They say that the best way to predict the future is to create it, she begins. But sometimes, before you can create, you have to tear something down. You have to clear the land of the weeds that have been choking the life out of the soil for years. She looks over at David Sterling. 2 years ago, our superintendent began clearing the land. He did it for us. He did it for the students who came before us, whose names we'll never know. And he did it so that we, the class of this year, could plant a new garden. She smiles, a brilliant, confident smile. And look at what has grown. The speech is a triumph. It is about resilience, about community, about the power of a single person to demand change. When she finishes, the crowd gives her a standing ovation. Later, as David stands at the edge of the stage, shaking hands and handing out diplomas, he feels a profound sense of peace. The cycle is complete. The wound of the past has not just been healed, it has been transformed into a source of strength for a new generation. He is no longer the boy who was told he would never graduate. He is the man who ensures that everyone has the chance to. The moral of the story is etched into the foundation of the new Northwood High. Arrogance is a blindness. Prejudice is a prison. Arthur Garrison, trapped in the prison of his own small mind, looked at a brilliant boy and saw only a stereotype. He saw a problem to be dismissed, a future to be crushed. He never saw the scholar, the leader, the avenger he was creating. He judged a book by its cover, and was utterly destroyed when the final chapter was written by the very person whose story he tried to erase. For in the end, justice is not just about punishing the guilty. It is about empowering the innocent. It is about building a world where a person's potential is not limited by the prejudice of others. It is about ensuring that every student who walks through those school doors knows, with absolute certainty, that they belong. And that their future is their own to write.